Both the parties that make up Australia's main non-left political coalition, the Liberals and the Nationals, elected their new federal parliamentary leadership teams this week. And in both cases, it was a battle between the so-called moderates, the progressive centre-left leaning side of the parties, and the classical Liberals and Conservatives, the more centre-right and right-leaning side of the parties. And in both cases, the centre-left leaning moderate candidates were victorious. Susan Lee, in the case of the Liberal Party, she is the new opposition leader. And for the Nationals, it was the incumbent, David Littleproud, being re-elected. So he will become the deputy opposition leader once again under the coalition rules, where the National Party gets the deputy and the Liberal Party get the leader. Now, I want to play you some of Susan Lee's speech because the news only shows you 10-second sound bites. And I think we need to see a minute or two of it to get a sense of where she's really at.
It is an enormous privilege to have been elected the leader of the Parliamentary Liberal Party. I am humbled, I am honoured, and I am up for the job. We listened to the Australian people on Saturday, and we will continue to listen to them around the country. We have to have a Liberal Party that respects modern Australia, that reflects modern Australia, and that represents modern Australia. And we have to meet the people where they are. And that's what I am committed to doing and what I'm determined to do.
So let's just analyse that for a bit, because there's a lot in what she just said there in terms of sending a message, a signal about the direction that the Liberal Party and coalition will be going in the next 3 years. When she says a party that, quote, reflects modern Australia, this is a nod to the fact that they will be following, not leading. They'll be listening to focus groups and the polling and doing what Australia tells them to do. They won't be actively moving us in a direction that we should be going or trying to sell fresh and new, slightly risky ideas, giving us medicine we might need to take, even if it tastes bad short term, in order to do the right thing long term. So already we've got a clear indication that the moderates will not be listening to the more conservative arm of the party. It'll be leadership by polling and consensus. It'll be whatever the people want us to be, just so long as we can stay in power. Because if we're not in power, what good are we? Well, if you're in power but you have no spine, what good are you? It's ScoMo 2.0. Even the deputy they chose for the Liberal Party, Ted O'Brien, looks a bit like ScoMo. Now, look, Susan is reflecting a view that many, many people in the Liberal Party hold, but it's not the view of probably about half the party, which is why we saw such a close vote at 29-25. Yes, you do need to listen to the people, but you also need to lead. And if you only listen, then someone else gets to set the agenda, and that would be the left. And they've been setting the agenda for 50 years now in Australia, which is why we are in the mess we're in and why there are too few people under 40 voting centre-right.
I want to do things differently, and we have to have a fresh approach. I want to harness the talents of every single person in our party room going forward to develop the clear, articulate policy agenda that does meet Australians where they are, to develop robust policy processes, to value those contributions, and I can't wait to get started, along with Ted, on that important task.
I can't help but notice that the coalition moderates are all about bringing the party back together and ending all the nasty, divisive ideological talk. But where's the acknowledgement of the half of the party that's right of centre and thinks Australia needs more centre-right economic policy and conservative social values to progress? It's always about becoming more modern, speaking to modern Australia, becoming the party for modern things, as if modern and new is always better. It isn't, which is why I tried to not use the term progressive when talking about the centre-left or left. It's not always progress. Susan Lee is politically in the same position as an American Democrat, in my view. Maybe not Kamala Harris or AOC, but definitely Hillary. Her record on fighting for liberty and freedom against big government overreach is also not great. In the middle of the war between the E-Karens and the X platform, she even told Sky News last year that she loves Australia's e-safety commissioner and doesn't like Elon Musk. So a champion of free speech, she is not.
I'm for X obeying the law and
I'm not for the actions and the statements of our e-safety commissioner being ignored. We back her 100%. In government, we introduced the Online Safety Act. We want to see age verification tools put in place to prevent young people accessing both sinister and also really awful images on the net. And the government needs to progress that. They, for some reason, have stepped back from that age verification. But politicians, I think, are united in being very, very concerned about what our young people see online. And for some young people, there's no problem, and they can accept the context in which they see something. But for others who are vulnerable, it simply is not. It's not safe. And so I'm really disappointed with the approach that Elon Musk and the way he's taken over this company. And it's just a free-for-all, and it's not fair and it's not right.
Okay, she's confusing many, many different issues there, which is dangerous stuff. And she finished it with, oh, it's all icky and not right feeling. Well, sometimes the right thing to do doesn't actually feel nice in the moment. I hope her analysis of issues deepens a bit, especially issues around free speech and free media, which are the cornerstone of our liberty. The future of new media like us isn't looking bright if that's the team that's supposed to be fighting for us against the left. Joining me this week on the panel are our very good friend and our regular on the show from the Natural Law Institute, Mr. Rob McMullen. Rob, it's great to have you back on the show.
You were going to say former friend.
I was going to say former friend. No,
I don't know what I did.
You didn't do it. I don't know why I said that. And we have John Ruddock, who is the Libertarians member for the New South Wales State Parliament Upper House. John, welcome. It's great to have you on the other side.
Pleased to be part of this first episode with the new set.
Thanks, mate. Now, you were a member, John, of the Liberal Party for over 25 years, so I think we should go to you first. What's your take on this apparent shift to the left that we're seeing from the coalition?
Susan Ley is bad on every single contentious issue facing the Australian people. Okay, so if anyone out there's got their hopes up, I'm telling you, don't waste your time. Now, what has really annoyed me since the election loss and is the word we've got to listen.
Yeah.
You just played from Susan Ley. She said that. She said it about 10 times in that whole press conference. Now, what they're saying is you tell us what you want us to believe, voters, and we'll believe that. Now,
yeah, I'll be whatever you want me to be. Just tell me what you want me to be as long as I stay in power, yeah?
Now, there was a great line that came out of the 2016 Republican primary in the United States, and it was, great leaders don't follow polls. Great leaders change polls. Okay.
Yeah.
Susan Ley does not have that mindset. All she wants to do is get re-elected. But Susan Ley is only a symptom of the massive problem in the Liberal Party. The massive problem is this, that it's been intellectually hollowed out. Okay, because they have lost their heartland seats in many, many cases, the metropolitan ones in particular. And they used to win some seats on the outer suburbs of Sydney, but they would usually put their more mediocre candidates out there in those seats, which used to be sort of swing seats. Okay, but now those swing seats on the outer edges have become safe seats, but that's full of their mediocre people. Now, they're more talented people used to say, you know, if you live in Sydney, I want to represent the North Shore or the eastern suburbs, you know, nice, safe seat.
Yeah.
You have the Malcolm Turnbulls, the Tony Abbotts, you know, the people who had, you know, were going to go places. They said, oh, well, you know, I'm going to run you for these seats. But now what's happened? They've lost those seats and they ain't coming back, in my view. Okay, so now the other problem is that the war has been, the factional war in the Liberal Party has been lost amongst the branches, okay, because the left is simply better and more skilled and got more time to manipulate the system so that their mates win pre-selection.
Right.
There used to be in the 1980s and the 1990s, this faction, the dominant faction in the federal parliamentary party room called the Dries.
Yeah.
People even remember the Dries anymore. Who were the Dries? The Dries were the Thatcherites, okay? It was the John Howard faction. They said, we've got to cut regulations. We've got to cut spending. We've got to cut taxes. We've got to be pro-free enterprise in general, okay? Now, the Dries, okay, basically are either an endangered species or an extinct species. Okay, there's no one in there arguing for, what we desperately need. Economic rationalism.
John, the argument you get from the wets, from the moderates, from the left side of the Liberal Party is always, we have to move with Australia. We heard that rhetoric coming from Susan Lee this week. We've got to listen to Australia, to modern Australia. We have to adjust to modern Australia. Okay, so the assumption is modern Australia has shifted left, and that, we're not going to get any votes of anybody under 40 if we are dry, right, or stick to conservative values. I don't buy that. I think young men in particular are ripe for good, strong conservative policy. What do you think?
Well, we are seeing that around the world. Young men under the age of 30 are swinging right in European elections, the American elections. Look, I think I had an article in the Financial Review this week, and I said, look, this is what the answer is to the Liberal Party. They need to do exactly what they do in the Canadian political parties, and that is that their parliamentary leader is chosen by a convention of all the party members. Okay. Because while the party room might be 50-50, I can tell you 80% of the Liberal Party membership are pretty right-wing.
I've noticed that, yeah, with just being on the periphery and seeing how some people react when you go and talk to people, Liberal Party members on the street or during an election, compared to when you're listening to people in the actual political branch. It's really quite.
If someone's going to go to the bother of ringing up the Liberal Party and saying, "Hi, I'd like to become a member. How do I get involved? I'd like to turn up to branches." If someone's going to go to that bother, they're going to be pretty right wing. They probably listen to the other side with Damien Curry. Probably,
Okay. Yeah, we try not to.
Newspaper. Okay. So what I'm saying is, if those people could get a vote on who the federal parliamentary leader is, well, firstly, we'd probably have 10 times the amount of members overnight, because people say, yeah, I'll pay my little membership fee if I can get a vote on who the parliamentary leader is going to be. And guess what will happen then? Tony Abbott would never have been rolled. Okay, they would never. Malcolm Turnbull wouldn't have even contested that ballot because he knows that the membership would be conservative. So we would always have a conservative majority. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we have lost a big part of Australia that used to vote Liberal. And that's because they have fallen for the climate change hocus pocus. And why have they fallen for the climate change hocus pocus? And they really have. A lot of good people have really fallen for it. They've fallen for it because we've got our two major political parties say, I believe in climate change. And the other one says, I believe in climate change too. Then the mainstream media says, oh, it's the apocalypse is coming.
Yeah.
So therefore everyone thinks, okay, well, it must be true. Well, if it's true, it's very serious. So I'll vote for the political party that's more serious about it, which is always going to be Labor, because the Liberals don't believe in it. Peter Dutton didn't believe in it. Tony Abbott didn't believe in it. John Howard didn't believe in it, but they went along with it. And that's why they've lost their heartland, because of their weakness and cowardice.
Yeah, because there is no opposition, and that's the problem. Rob McMullen, just to bring you in here, Natural Law Institute, from that perspective, Rob, what do you make of what Susan Ley was saying there, and just some of that language she was using?
I think I'll start with the actual point, and I think this is what it all boils down to, and this is what the right wing in this country needs to learn, is you can't out-left the left.
Right.
Because it's like, you've got an elephant and a monkey, and you're trying to get the monkey to act like an elephant, and vice versa. The elephant's not going to climb a tree. There's inherent abilities and temperaments and ways of seeing the world. And if you're not wired that way, you can't outcompete the people who are wired that way in their worldview. It's just not going to happen. So it looks like with Susan Ley more of the same. I ran with Clive Palmer's Trumpet of Patriots in the recent election. And, all the issues with that party aside, with Mr. Palmer and Mr. Ellen Wrightson and Senator Babbitt, when we talked, a big element of that was punishing the Liberal Party for not having any values. And, you might have whatever opinion about that party you like. In large measure, I think we contributed to that.
Well, you're a bit younger than John and I, right? So from a Gen Y millennial sort of perspective, what do you think about the assertion that we're not going to win voters under 40 back as a Liberal Party? We're not going to get the under 40s back if we don't, become more left wing, more or less. Do you buy that?
I don't buy that at all. I mean, I watched a couple of post-election analyses by Tony Abbott, and he made a comment twice, which I think is very telling. And he said, a leader's job is to, in large part, to convince people that what they want is what they need. And so there is a delicate balance between representation and leadership. You know, you can pull things out of the people that you might articulate things for them in a certain way that it lets them follow you as well. It's not just about saying, well, I'm a leader, but I'm going to lead by following. You tell me what to do and I'll be whatever you want, because you've just got no spine.
Yeah. And I think we saw that with ScoMo, right? And the people made their verdict on it.
Can I also just say, this is, to me, watching Susan Lay's monologues there, the most telling thing is that she used the "it's 2025." You know, it's the current year argument.
Yeah.
A modern Australia, you listen to every leftist argument, and so many times it boils down to, well, it's the current year, progress and change, and my worldview is a given, and I don't even need to think outside that. And if you do, you're a bad person.
You're old-fashioned, you're a fuddy-duddy.
Which is automatically disqualifying. But it's not automatically disqualifying, because other people have different incentives and they refuse to see outside it. So at the end of the day, we need to have the fight. We need to say, no, we actually don't agree with your language, we don't agree with your framing, we don't agree with your worldview. We are actually representing something completely outside what you're doing. And we need to find where that conflict settles.
All right, Rob, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment with Rob McMullen and John Ruddock. You may have noticed, if you've been overseas on holiday recently, that you can log into your streaming services like Netflix or Prime in other countries, but the shows they offer are different and sometimes even better. You're paying good money for those subscription services. Why can't you watch? Well, with a virtual private network, or VPN, you can log in from home here in Australia with an internet address from anywhere in the world, and big corporations and big government can't see where you are. Now, to be clear, criminals can still be actively found with police warrants, of course, but the average honest citizen will have their location protected from prying eyes of corporate marketers and government bureaucrats. If you sign up now with private internet access, we think they are the best VPN service out there. That's private internet access. As a viewer of The Other Side, you can get 83% off the price of your subscription and get online for less than $3 a month. Check it out right now. Go to piavpn.com/otherside. That's piavpn.com/otherside. It's a great service and a rock bottom price, and you're helping keep The Other Side going and growing. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damien Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.